Table structuring is copying and or exporting a table and choosing the type of structure when pasting or exporting into another database, or pasting to another database or in the same database. For example, I've got a new database here. It's my computer inventory or CI2 relationships database. And over to the left-hand side, I've got 4 tables. Tables that I want to keep track of information for the company, like our computers, departments, employees, and manufacturers. So if I open up the employees, I've got 4 fields here. Now, table structuring can be very helpful if I want to either create a backup of my table here, so that way if I make any mistakes, I can go ahead and pull up the backup, or if I have a table that has a lot of similarities to a new table that I want to create that includes like a lot of the same field names or maybe the same types of data or data type, then instead of coming to, well, let's say this table and trying to memorize everything here, at least the name of the fields or the type of data, don't do that. Just go ahead and close out and right-click on that table and go down and copy it. Once you have it copied, then you can right-click anywhere, even on another table. And don't worry, when you come down here and click on paste, it's not going to paste it into the table. Access won't allow you to do that. Just go ahead and select paste, and it opens up the paste table as, where you get 3 options. You can either paste the structure only, which just includes the fields, no records, or you can include the fields and the records, and the data, or you can append the data or the records to another table. Now, when you choose that option, you have to have the same fields and the same type of data or data type. I mean, it doesn't make sense for Access to have you go ahead and paste one field that has the data type of date into another field like the auto number that automatically generates numbers and has nothing to do with the dates. So to keep it simple, let's start off with structure only, and we can go ahead and give this another name. Keep it TBL employees and say that this is structure only. Hit enter, and there you go. Adds it over to the left-hand side, double-click to open it up. We just get the fields or the structure, no records. Let's go ahead and close out. Then that way, we can go ahead and tweak it if there's just some slight tweaking, like maybe changing the name of the fields or updating a few of the data types and then entering in the records. That way I didn't have to go to the other table and try to memorize all the fields and the types of data for this new table that has a lot of similarities. Copy and paste, and then tweak. Let's go ahead and right-click on that and go down to delete that table and say yes. And then since we already copied this to the clipboard, that table, it's going to be on the clipboard until I copy something else or close out of the database. So all we need to do is just go ahead and right-click again anywhere over in the navigation pane and go down to paste. And this time we can choose, well, the default selection is structure and data. So how about if we just make this as a backup table and call it backup, and then click OK, and there's the backup. Double click to open it up. It's got the fields and the records. So if I close out of here and I make a boo-boo in this table, and I'm like, oh, I deleted too many records that I can't remember what records I deleted, you can go ahead and right-click on it and go down to delete and get rid of it. And it says in order to delete this, we got to empty the clipboard first. Is that okay? Yes. And then we can come over here and say, okay, this was the backup. It's no longer the backup. We're now using this as the original here. Go ahead and right-click, go down to rename, and then just delete backup, hit enter, and then open it up, and it's the same thing here. It looks like nothing happened and you didn't make any errors. Nobody's the wiser. So let's go ahead and close out. And then as far as, well, let me right click and get this back on the clipboard by copying. So when I right click and paste, for the third option, when it comes to appending the data to an existing table, I'll go over that in just a minute here because I don't have a table that has the same fields and the same data type that I could paste the employees into. So instead, let me go ahead and click cancel, minimize this down to the taskbar, go to my exercises folder on the desktop, and let's open up the books database. So I have my books database and my computer inventory that's opened, 2 different databases, and over here I don't have the employees table, and I'd like it over here. So I can come back to the CI computer inventory and right click and copy it. It's already on the clipboard, and come back over here to the books and then just right click anywhere and select paste. And I can do it that way, or I can click cancel if I don't want to open up the other database, because I think it'll go a little bit faster. Well, especially if you have millions of records. I'm not sure how much the clipboard's going to be able to handle. If you got millions of records, it may choke on it. So the other thing you can do to get that table over into this database, where you can structure it to either include maybe just the fields, or if you want both the fields and the records, the data. Let's just do the fields here. Then we want to go back to our computer inventory database and right-click in the database, that table that we want to go ahead and export into another database, and go over and down to Access, and it says, okay, where's this other database? Browse for it. It's in my exercises folder on the desktop, so it's going to be Books. Double-click on that, select OK, and then it gives me the option to include the definition and data or definition only. So if I don't want the structure and the records, but just the fields there, the structure, go ahead and select definition only, and you can rename it. I'll keep it as TBL employees and say OK. And I can save the export steps here. And I don't want to do that because really when it came to exporting it, it was so simplistic, it didn't take too many steps. You'll find out later on when we do other imports or exports, and when it requires a lot more thought into it, like what fields you want to import or export and be able to narrow that down. It may be step intensive, so I could go ahead and save that as something that I can later go ahead and export on the fly. So I won't save it here. Let me click close, and if I did save it and I want to go ahead and export it again by using those save steps, you can go back to the external data tab, go to the export group, and it will be under save exports. You go ahead and find the name of your export and go ahead and execute it. It'll save you all those steps, but we really didn't have that many steps because it was really simplistic here when it came to exporting our data, the tables data, into our Books database. Now I don't see it here, and the reason why is because I have it open. What I can do is I can go ahead and hit the F5 key on the keyboard. F5 is the refresh key, and when I hit that, it automatically displays it. It refreshes it saying, okay, it's here, but since you already had it open, it's hidden. If you want to see it, hit F5 on the keyboard, or you can close out of the database, reopen it, back up, and you'll find it here, and there it is, employees. And it just included the fields, or the definition, not the records. Now having said that, if I go back to my computer inventory database and I right-click on it and I copy it, and I come back here and I'm like, okay, I really want to add the records to this table now. Let me go ahead and close out. Well, first of all, the table has to have the same fields here and the same type of data or data type. How do you know if you have the same data type? Well, you go back and forth between the tables. I mean, if you created it, you probably are already aware of it, or if it's an entirely new database, then you want to check it out. You can do it one of two ways. You can either go ahead and come up here and click on the Fields tab and select each field, and you can see up here in the formatting group the data type, short text. This one's short text and that one's number. So you go back to the other table, click inside those fields and make sure it has the same data type, or you can right click on the tab, go to the design view, and just as we went over, you got the data type column here for each field. So once you match up with the data type and you got the field names that will be able to match up, so you can pull last name to last name, first name to first name. Then we can go ahead and close out and click on paste, and we can append the data to an existing table. Now which table? Go ahead and type in the name of the table. If the name of the table was TBL Books, then you would delete this and type in TBL Books. It's that simple. You don't have to do any special coding, just type in the name of the table. So it's going to be employees here. We're going to append the data to it, click okie dokie, double click. Hey, you got all the records there. Isn't that fancy? Or if you right click and you select paste and you say that you want to append it to a table that doesn't have the same fields or the same data type like the books, so I'm trying to append the employees to the books table and click okie dokie. The employee ID doesn't exist in the destination table books. That's an issue, so it's not going to happen.